News headquarters in Washington, I'm Howard K. Smith.
I'm Frank Reynolds in New York. These are tonight's headlines. President Nixon delivers a belated but optimistic report on the economy and calls for restraint by both business and labor. Cambodian officials predict that the communists soon will attack Phnom Penh. A bill to lower the voting age in all elections to 18 is passed by the House and sent to the President. And the mayor-elect of New Jersey's largest city asks the people of Newark to forget his color and theirs. Howard?
Reports tonight from Bob Clark with the congressional view of the president's message, Louis Rukeyser with an analysis of what that message will mean in the long run, Howard Tuckner in Kompong Spew after the battle, Don Farmer on the desegregation slowdown in Columbia, South Carolina, Jim Giggins on the election in Newark, the first major eastern city to pick a Negro mayor, and tonight's comment on Newark as a symbol of progress. Details on these and other stories in a moment.
Black belt, symbol of achievement. Black belt, now an aftershave and cologne. Some men will wear it, some won't. Not every man gets to wear the black belt.
Brace your eyes for another day. A little glare. A little smoke. A little close work. A little smog. And the eyes have had it. The red shows it. We need Visine, the only eye drop with tetrahydrozoline. It soothes and gets the red out. Visine gets the red out.
On April the 27th, President Nixon promised the nation a speech diagnosing the odd condition of our economy. Recession amid inflation, two things that aren't supposed to happen at the same time. Today, 51 days later, he finally made that speech, proposed remedies, and inserted a few political thoughts we may hear more about in the coming elections. ABC White House correspondent Bill Gill reports.
The president offered 4 principal anti-inflation devices. A new study group will seek ways to increase the industrial production per 1 man-hour of labor. There will be a new inflation alert commission to publicize unacceptable rises in the cost of wages and prices. A third group will study government purchasing policies to determine their effect on the driving up of prices for goods and services. Finally, defense spending will be cut by some $7 billion within the coming 2 years. And there was a presidential appeal to both business and labor for a reappraisal of their self-interest in the fight against inflation.
The fight against inflation is everybody's business. If you act against the national interest, if you contribute to inflation in your price or wage demands, then you are acting against your own best interests and your customers' best interests. And that is neither good business nor good bargaining. If businessmen and working men are willing to raise their sights by lowering their demands, they will help themselves by helping to hold down everybody's cost of living.
The president was emphatic on what he will not do to control inflation. He came down hard against government regulations, and he shunned the so-called jawbone technique of holding down cost.
Now here's what I will not do. I will not take this nation down the road of wage and price controls, however politically expedient that may seem. Controls and rationing may seem like an easy way out, but they are really an easy way in to more trouble, to the explosion that follows when you try to clamp a lid on a rising head of steam without turning down the fire under the pot. Wage and price controls only postpone a day of reckoning, and in so doing, they rob every American of a very important part of his freedom. Nor am I starting to use controls in disguise. By that I mean the kind of policy whereby government makes executive pronouncements to enforce guidelines in an attempt to dictate specific prices and wages without authority of law. I realize that there are some people who get satisfaction out of seeing an individual businessman or labor leader called on the carpet and browbeaten by government officials. But we cannot protect the value of the dollar by passing the buck. That sort of grandstanding distracts attention from the real cause of inflation, and it can be a dangerous misuse of the power of government.
Mr. Nixon zeroed in on Congress, placing part of the responsibility for inflation on Capitol Hill and demanding a new ethic in what he calls political arithmetic.
There's an old and cynical adage that says that in an election year, the smart politician is one who votes for all bills to spend money and votes against all bills to raise taxes. But in this election year of 1970, that old adage cannot apply. The American people will see through any attempt by anyone to play politics with their cost of living. And whenever a member of Congress displays the imagination to introduce a bill that calls for more spending, let him display the courage to introduce a bill to raise the taxes to pay for that new program. Long before the art of economics had a name, it was called political arithmetic. The American people expect their elected officials to do their political arithmetic honestly.
This is Bob Clark on Capitol Hill. It might be honest arithmetic for members of Congress to propose higher taxes to pay for new programs, but as the President well knows, it would be bad politics for Democrats or Republicans in this congressional election year. His challenge to raise taxes fell on very deaf ears in both parties. While the President was commended by some Democrats for taking his first step toward jawboning to curb inflation, others, including House Banking Chairman Wright Patman, scoffed at his proposals.
He said that we did not have any economic crisis. I think he's wrong. It is a weak statement which sounds so much like an echo of the remarks we used to hear from President Hoover in the late 1920s and early 1930s. Mr. Hoover's always saying 2 chickens never pot, prosperity's just around the corner, 2 cars never garage, and things like that. Rolls his statements, you know. Pep people up.
This is the beginning of jawboning. This means, what the President's speech today means, is that he is going to be in a position where he's going to have to call public attention to inflationary wage demands by unions and certainly to inflationary price increases by big corporations. And to that extent, this is a healthy statement.
The Senate's Majority Leader, Mike Mansfield, repeated his suggestion today that the President consider standby wage, price, and profit controls. But there's no sign Congress will vote Mr. Nixon any such authority, since he says he wouldn't use it anyway. Bob Clark, ABC News on Capitol Hill.
The stock market was on the way up this morning, but the steam went out of the surge around noon. Despite the President's speech, industrials closed down 1.58. Many stockbrokers spent the noon hour with one eye on the big board and the other on their television sets. ABC economic editor Louis Rukeyser has a report.
I shall direct the Commission to give first priority to the problems we face now.
Up to now, the President's most successful economic jawboning has been with the stock market. It surged sharply after his recent powwow with business leaders, and yesterday it ran up nearly 19 points in anticipation of some encouraging words today. In brokerage offices around the country, those words were listened to raptly, but with some sense of anticlimax. Perhaps disappointed that the President did not have more to offer, the market closed off a bit today. The President seemed determined, in fact, not to set pulses racing. He specifically rejected the flashier proposed solutions, such as wage and price controls, and left little doubt that he still relies, for the most part, on budget and money restraints. His new program involves a new commission and a new board, but really no startlingly new functions. Inflation Alert may have a dramatic sound, almost like a new television program, but the alert will be sounded only after the fact. And administration officials emphasize that there will be no attempt to vilify even the worst offenders. Despite the fact that this was billed as a major economic speech, it makes more sense to look at it politically than economically. Politically, the President plainly had decided that in this election year, he had to appear not to be leaving any stone unturned in his effort to defeat inflation. But economically, he has come up with A pretty small stone indeed. This is Louis Rukeyser, ABC News, Washington.
We'll be back with more news in a moment.
Hi, how are you? Hi.
Hello. This is Close-Up. This is Close-Up. A clear red toothpaste with 2 whiteners that get teeth whiter than the toothpaste you're probably using. And it contains a real mouthwash. Close-Up. It gets breath. Close-Up fresh. And teeth. Close-Up white. Close-Up for close-ups. This is a pack of Polaroid color film. 1 pack, 8 beautiful pictures. And all you need between the pack and the pictures is a camera that costs only $29.95. The Polaroid Color Pack 2. Color pictures in a minute. Electric eye. 3-element lens. Built-in flash. $29.95.
The war is almost over, and the worst is yet to come. 2 slightly conflicting views of basically the same war expressed today in 2 different places, Vietnam and Cambodia. In South Vietnam, President Thieu said fighting in his country next year will no longer be of great significance. But military sources in Cambodia are now predicting a communist attack on their capital, Phnom Penh, and an all-out effort to bring down the government of Premier Lon Nol. The recent surge of North Vietnamese and Viet Cong attacks in the Cambodian countryside have drawn government forces away from the capital, and Phnom Penh is now even more vulnerable than before. The city was never very well defended anyway. The government believes that terrorists have already infiltrated Phnom Penh, and a new decree has just been issued, making it illegal for 2 persons to ride a motorbike. A favorite terrorist tactic is for the passenger on a speeding bike to fling a bomb into a crowded place. So Phnom Penh seems to have a first-class case of the jitters, and perhaps with very good reason. Cambodia's capital may soon experience the kind of suffering being borne by the people in other cities. For example, Kampong Speu, just recaptured by government and South Vietnamese troops. ABC's Howard Tuckner has a report.
It's overpowering now, the putrid smell of death, of war. And perhaps that is why the ones who have lived through it here, who smelled it before, and know they will again, quickly forgot the dead of Kampong Speu and started thinking only of themselves, their own needs. The 4-day battle was as impersonal as all the others, men killing unseen men. But when it ended, the South Vietnamese forces that recaptured the sun-baked little town started seeing it all for themselves. The destruction, the dead, the wounded. Now the battle no longer was long-range, impersonal. You see them. You know that some have lain under the sun for 4 days. You see the gasoline trucks, ambushed by the North Vietnamese, trucks on their way to Phnom Penh, and you know that other men carrying no weapons died here too. They knew it could have been them, but these South Vietnamese soldiers were still alive, and they were going to get what they could out of it, out of Kampong Speu. They looted, they stole, something that seems to have become the prerogative of victorious troops in Indochina. But the bad thing about the looting and stealing here, Cambodian troops did it too, was that the Cambodian civilians who lived through the fighting said that the North Vietnamese troops stole nothing from them. The stealing can be put down, perhaps, to the acts of undisciplined troops. For all those who got through this, life will be a little different from now on. Throughout the 4-day battle, this man was cut off from his wife and family. Until this moment, the husband did not know if his wife and children had survived. Howard Tuckner, ABC News, Kampong Speu, Cambodia.
We'll be back with more news in a moment.
Since the beginning of time, a lot of things have changed. One thing hasn't. When kids play, they get dirt. Once there wasn't much you could do to protect a cut from dirt. Now there is, with Band-Aid brand shear strips from Johnson & Johnson. So protect every cut, even the littlest ones, from dirt and germs that can cause infection. It's the best protection you've got.
Going out with Ronald again?
How'd you guess?
Take a bath for an hour, put on girly powder, and go out with Ronald.
The girly powder is baby powder.
That's worse.
It smells nice. Try some.
You don't have to smell nice to play baseball.
Oh.
I'm leaving.
Going somewhere?
To tell Ronald his baby's almost ready.
Johnson's baby powder keeps anybody's baby smooth and fresh.
Yo ho ho! There's a treasure of food! By Billy Bones, we'll clean out this kitchen in no time.
Hey, Captain, this sure is a great raid.
You idiots! It is raid! Raid!
Yes, Raid, House and Garden Bug Killer, for indoors and outdoors. Raid hunts bugs down like radar and kills them dead. And Raid's patented formula won't leave oil stains on draperies or furniture. It's safe for outdoors, too. Raid won't harm plants or shrubs. Get Raid, House and Garden Bug Killer. It really kills them dead. Raid, created by Johnson Wax.
The House of Representatives passed a new voting rights bill this afternoon and sent it to the President. It does three things. It forbids literacy tests anywhere in the country. It establishes a uniform residency requirement for presidential elections, and it gives the right to vote to 18-year-olds. That last item could lead to a presidential veto, as ABC Capitol Hill correspondent Sam Donaldson reports.
President Nixon favors lowering the voting age, but through constitutional amendment, not legislation. House Republicans tried today to prevent final approval of the bill in order to strip it of the 18-year-old provision, but failed. Now the question is whether the president will sign it anyway.
I know the president does favor the voting rights legislation, but I think he can and does raise questions about the constitutionality of the right of Congress by law to say 18-year-olds can vote in local elections.
If he vetoes the bill for any reason, he vetoes the entire bill.
And what effect would that have, then?
That would have the effect of terminating many of the provisions, most of the important provisions of the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
Mr. Nixon's dilemma involves the 18-year-old provision. But those in Congress and the administration who didn't want a tough voting rights bill in the first place are pulling for him to veto it no matter what the grounds. Sam Donaldson, ABC News, Capitol Hill.
On another highly controversial civil rights issue in the South, school desegregation, some progress was reported today by Assistant Attorney General Jairus Leonard. He says most of Mississippi's school districts now have acceptable desegregation plans. The remaining holdouts are either negotiating or will be subject to court suits filed by the Justice Department. Columbia, South Carolina has a new desegregation plan which will go into effect this fall. ABC's Don Farmer reports on what it will and will not accomplish.
It's not hard to determine where blacks and whites live in Columbia. The neighborhoods are clear and defined and segregated by race. And that's the problem as far as integrating the schools here. 2 years ago, the federal government, HEW, ordered Columbia to integrate. Since then, local people have been negotiating, trying to get a modified integration plan. And they've succeeded. HEW has now approved a program which basically is the neighborhood school concept. Some boundaries have been widened to better integrate schools, but under the HEW-approved plan, there is no busing for race mixing, no pairing of black and white schools. There will be less integration than HEW had once demanded. 17 of the 62 schools will remain at least 80% black. Some black leaders believe the Nixon administration's so-called Southern strategy is at work here.
I think that President Nixon has indicated he has a particular kind of plan that he wants to see implemented. It's a different approach than taken 2 years ago or 4 years ago under the old Democratic administration of President Johnson and prior to that President Kennedy.
And does it not, in fact, result in less integration?
I think that it does. And I think that also it gives a little bit more time to school boards that have had 16 years to implement desegregation. It gives them more time to continue to try and defy the law of the land.
The school board has endorsed the HEW plan. Now, board members are trying to pull moderate whites and blacks together to support it, to show that integration can work if done in the modified fashion now acceptable to HEW. One method of easing public tension is the school board's telephone information center.
Yes, sir. And how far away from here is Fairwall School, and what route will the bus take, taking them out there, and so forth?
Well, sir, the bus
Parents by the thousands, irate, upset, or just concerned, are getting instant answers to questions about their children's school assignments for September. People of both races here are wondering why HEW did modify its demands. Some see political intrigue in Washington as the key. Others say, for once, HEW is using common sense. In any event, these facts remain. Columbia's schools will be more integrated than ever before, but complete total integration is nowhere in sight. Don Farmer, ABC News in Columbia, South Carolina.
We'll be back with more news in a moment.
Hold it. We're waiting for a cue.
What?
Listen. How about that? This Polaroid countdown land camera is automatic. It even calls you when your picture is ready. Automatic exposures, time exposures, electronic development timer. This camera does everything. Even calls you when the magic is over.
When you get close to people, do your teeth still look their whitest? Does your breath still seem its freshest? Be sure with new Close-Up, the toothpaste and mouthwash in one. Clear Red Close-Up has 2 whiteners that get teeth whiter than the toothpaste most people use, and a real mouthwash. So it not only gets your breath Close-Up fresh, it also gets your teeth Close-Up white. Close-Up is for close-ups.
In other news today, the Senate Armed Services Committee administered the first setback in Congress to the Safeguard Missile Program. The committee voted to deny funds for 5 new ABM sites. However, the committee did approve ABM installations for the Whiteman Air Force Base in Missouri and the Warren Air Force Base in Wyoming, and also approved expansion of 2 other ABM sites. Nathan Voloshin, the lobbyist who was accused of using House Speaker McCormick's office as a base for influence peddling, pleaded guilty today in New York federal court just as his trial was about to begin. Martin Swag, McCormick's congressional aide, who was charged along with Voloshin, pleaded innocent, and he will stand trial alone. Few cities in America have more old problems than Newark, New Jersey, which yesterday elected a new mayor, a black man, to try to solve them. Kenneth Gibson defeated the incumbent mayor, Hugh Addonizio, in a runoff election by winning better than 56% of the votes in a record turnout. ABC's Jim Giggins files this report from Newark.
Newark, New Jersey has elected the first black mayor of a major eastern seaboard city. The victory was decisive, but it had been a bitterly contested and racially divisive campaign. Incumbent Mayor Hugh Addonizio's supporters didn't take his loss lightly. At his headquarters, supporters attacked newsmen, blaming them for Gibson's victory. Shouting nigger lovers and commies, they smashed color TV cameras, overturned tables, and hurled glasses and ashtrays.
First, we asked the people to stay calm and not to go into the streets and riot. Second is to give Kenny a chance. And third, I said that if any trouble starts in the city, we won't start it, but we will finish it.
City Councilman Anthony Imperiale credits himself with averting more violence last night. Representing the far right, he was obviously disappointed with the election results. Today, he started a campaign to change the city's form of government.
Certainly, I know what's going to hit this town come January. The taxes are going to go up 300 points and better. Where are we going to get the money? Where are the people going to get this money to pay this outrageous taxes?
How would a commission form be better than the form you have now, to help in that respect?
Well, under the present form of government, we have we operate under the Faulkner Act C plan, which is a mayor, councilman, directors, and etc. Well, under the commission form of government would be 5 commissioners that would run the departments instead of department heads and etc. You really cut down on the expenses.
Are you going to petition to have this form of government started?
Yes, I am.
When are you going to start this petitioning?
It's already starting.
Today at a news conference, the mayor-elect reiterated his appeal for unity.
And I'm again issuing an appeal for all people in the city of Newark. That means all 400,000 of them. Join with our new administration and providing a real positive future for the city.
For the most part, Newarkers are either happy or resigned to the fact that they have a black mayor. Now, the real work of decelerating Newark's decay begins. This is Jim Giggins, ABC News, Newark.
We'll be back in a moment.
Wonder asks, how big do you want to be?
Big enough to practice sailing by myself. Big enough to dance with my girlfriend. Big enough to go surfing.
He'll never need Wonder Bread more than right now, because the time to grow bigger and stronger is during the Wonder years, ages 1 through 12, the years when your child grows to 90% of his adult height. How can you help? By serving nutritious Wonder-enriched bread. Wonder helps build strong bodies 12 ways. Each delicious slice of Wonder Bread supplies protein for muscle, minerals for strong bones and teeth, carbohydrates for energy, vitamins for nerves. All vital elements for growing minds and bodies. During the Wonder years, the growth years, help your child grow bigger and stronger. Serve Wonder Bread. Wonder helps build strong bodies 12 ways.
About 40% of the voters in Newark are Negroes. The Negro candidate for mayor beat the white incumbent last night by winning more than 56% of the votes. He had thus to win a lot of whites. Newark becomes the third great American city after Gary and Cleveland where this has happened. Negroes have won with white support. The British are having elections this week. The most publicized performer is the popular white racist Enoch Powell. The other day, Mr. Powell got mad at an American reporter questioning him on television and said, "You Americans are the worst failures at this race problem." Well, he's wrong. We're probably the best succeeders. The British are handling a smaller race problem very badly. Our most sanctimonious critic, India, is getting nowhere in ending discrimination against its 70 million untouchables. Kenya, a black African nation, is applying discriminatory laws to its Asian minority that recall medieval European laws against Jews. In America, by contrast, a Negro has made the president's cabinet and others on the Supreme Court. 500 more have won elections in the South they couldn't even vote in 5 years ago. Before every election, we hear predictions that there's going to be a big white backlash, but it has never happened. George Wallace, even in his own state, barely made it this year. Admittedly, we hear a lot of complaints and groans about this issue, but they are the creaks of forward movement, of which we had a little more in Newark last night. Frank?
Thank you, Howard. That's tonight's news and comment. I'm Frank Reynolds. Good night.
This has been the ABC Evening News with Frank Reynolds in New York and Howard K. Smith in Washington, Monday through Friday in color.
This is Frank Reynolds, ABC News. Stay tuned for national award-winning news with Rick Moore, 30 minutes from now.